start off back then and take us into the vote itself. You were out in Istanbul at the time, you were talking to people in your constituency, you were talking more widely around the country. What do you feel were the defining issues back in 2016? What was it that won it for Leave at that point? And then take us up to date a little bit, if you would.
Okay, thanks very much, and I really enjoyed that one. It's lovely to sort of walk through all our yesterdays and get a reflection on what happened. I haven't seen this documentary or whatever you call it, drama, yeah. So I haven't seen it yet, but a lot of my colleagues who did see it enjoyed it. But clearly it is not a documentary, so we'll make clear on that. I guess finally it goes back for me. I'm a Tory born in Wales. I count that as God's little joke because, as you know, Wales is not a Tory stronghold. But nonetheless, when we joined the Common Market, as it was, with Ted Heath, we didn't have a referendum then. Ted decided it was a jolly good idea to go in, and in we went. And at that time I can remember thinking, actually it's a good idea to be part with a number of other countries, being able to trade freely in the way that we were doing. And so I was actually very supportive of that. But as the years went on, I became more disillusioned. Maybe it's because my father had a newsagent's business and I got to read all the newspapers for free. No internet in those days, as you can only imagine. And so I got a flavour of wonky bananas, and everything that was wrong was the fault of the common market of the European community as it later became. And there was a progression away from the common market into the what I see as an onward march to a United States of Europe. That's where I think that eventually some countries and some people and individuals want it to end up, and we will see. Maybe perhaps made a little bit easier by Britain exiting the European Union, but we'll find out. And you saw the Maastricht Treaty that was debated in the early 1990s. Well, I got elected in 1992. So Maastricht was the first major piece of legislation I had to deal with. We didn't have family-friendly hours in those days. So John Major was not the cuddly sort of personality that he now appears to be when he was on television. He was ruthless. He was a ruthless Prime Minister, working with the whips to ensure that the legislation on Maastricht got through. And I can remember sitting through the night, on several nights, as Ian Duncan Smith and Bernard Jenkin. I wasn't too much involved in it. In fact, I did not rebel against the Maastricht Treaty, even though I despised it. If you read my maiden speech, it basically is a plaudit on all the lovely things about the Maastricht Treaty which weren't contained in the Maastricht Treaty. So it was rather a sort of a negative speech in many ways. It's also probably my worst speech, because I think I gave it about 1 o'clock in the morning. And so there was a sort of a relentless move, and if you may recall, it went absolutely to the wire on the Maastricht Treaty, so much so that it actually was defeated in the House of Commons at its final stage. And John Major on Thursday night stood at the dispatch box and said, the business for tomorrow, Friday, has been changed. We will all come back again tomorrow. The motion will be exactly the same. And if it is defeated again, I will go to Buckingham Palace and ask for a dissolution of Parliament. Now that sort of frightened a lot of Conservatives to think that they were going to lose their seats, and a vote of confidence motion, which is incredibly rare. Actually, I was just going to point to the monitor where you see we've got a vote of confidence motion in Parliament at this moment in time. Anyway, everybody then decided that they would support John Major's vote of confidence motion, which meant that the Maastricht Treaty could get through, apart from one, Rupert Allison, who failed to get back from Bermuda. And he lost the whip for well over a year because of that. Subsequent then to that have been a lot of other treaty changes over the years. which have added further and further to the cause for concern for people like myself who think that we are going towards the United States of Europe. Now and again, somebody will invent a word like subsidiarity, which meant that the decision making would be taken at the appropriate level, which was interpreted here as Westminster or indeed local authorities, but it wasn't. It was still the relentless push onwards. And if I'm going to look at another reason again why I believe that the Leave campaign got traction as well, is that during Maastricht we actually suggested to John Major that the treaty should be put to the people in a referendum. Well, he wasn't having any of that. Now, as you can see when he's on TV, he's a complete convert to referendums. He now wants another one. He didn't then. He despised referenda. And the Lisbon Treaty, which was the one that actually gave us the opportunity to actually legitimately leave the European Union, we were promised a referendum on that by Tony Blair too. I suspect private polling was done by the government to work out where that was going to go. They could work out it wasn't going to get through. And with all these treaties, you're not allowed to change a comma on them. They've got to be endorsed by all the countries throughout the European Union. And so all of a sudden, they decided to change it from, I think it was a constitutional document to a treaty, which Tony Blair came to the dispatch box and said, actually, it's a different document to the one that I said we were going to have a referendum on. So we don't need a referendum on this one. I was open-mouthed. We actually went through the two documents, and they were 98.5% the same document. They cut and pasted and put paragraphs on different pages, but it was essentially the same. I'm on the Council of Europe. Somebody came from the European Union, thought that they were speaking to a friendly audience, and said, oh, don't worry about the fact that the document has changed. It is fundamentally the same. So we were denied a referendum on the Lisbon Treaty right at the last moment. And so I think there was a huge frustration out there that the morphing of the European, the common market into what it then was, the European Union, with all bells and whistles, had been done without absolute no consultation in any referendums whatsoever. Now David Cameron, of course, had UKIP to contend with as well, which was a real force within Britain, as you can remember from one set of European Union elections which they won. Nigel Farage is a personality and very persuasive. It's, if you're looking for a figurehead more, I think, recognisable than Boris Johnson, it would be Nigel Farage. He's known throughout the world. I've been in Australia and people say, Nigel Farage. I was in a restaurant in New York just before Christmas. Oh, Nigel Farage was here. And I'm so seriously, he is definitely something to be contended with. And I think he drilled into the stuff that Will was talking about, which is this resentment, for whatever reason, as to what was going wrong with the European Union. Cameron had to counter it some way, shape, form or another. He was saved from giving a referendum post-2010 by the fact that he had to go into coalition with the Lib Dems. David could look people straight in the face and smile and say, I would love to have given a referendum, but my coalition partners won't let me. And so he got away with that. Of course he didn't want to give a referendum. But post-2015, he didn't have that luxury because we won with a majority. And he had to give the referendum. Now, I like Will, think absolutely the establishment thought that they were going to win this. Whether it is because they only tap into the London-centric people and organisations which demonstrated themselves that they were in favour of the European Union, I simply do not know. One of my favourite stories is I was standing in the bar, Strangers Bar at the House of Commons, and a friend of mine who worked for the Mayor of London, Kilvia Ranger, came in and he said, well, of course, we are going to vote to remain, aren't we? This was like about 3 weeks before. I said, no, we're not, Kilvia. We're going to vote to leave the European Union. He said, yeah, you're not. And I could see Graham Jones, a Labour MP for neighbouring Hyndburn, standing on the terrace. And I said, well, go up to Graham. I said, he's Hyndburn. I've not spoken to him about this at all. It's Accrington in Lancashire. So I said, go up and chat to him. And ask him what he thinks his people are doing. Colvia went, had a chat with Graham, came back, and he said, my goodness me. Graham says everybody's voting leave in Accrington. And of course, my constituency is 4 hours north of London. And I knew what the people of the Ribble Valley had been saying to me over a long period of time. The result in the end was every constituency in Lancashire, whether they were Labour or Conservative, voted Leave. Whole swathes of the country voted Leave. And just a little add-on, in one of our WhatsApp groups, you know, one of those things that, quite frankly, you read in the newspapers the next morning, they're very confidential. So do not leak them, but I read, you know, if I've missed it, I can then read it in the newspapers the next day. The Sunderland Echo one, 2 days ago, the front page of the Sunderland Echo said that 70% of their readership want to leave on WTO rules. So, irrespective of what people in this London bubble actually think, and wouldn't it be a good idea to have a second referendum, they're doing it because they have convinced themselves in their own echo chambers that the only change that has occurred is that people are horrified by the way that it was not as simple to leave the European Union as they were promised. Therefore, given the second chance, they will definitely vote to remain. And my view is not a chance. If anything, it's solidifying the other way. That people are showing huge resentment at the way that the European Union has behaved. And also the fact that there is an elite that exists within this country who cannot come to terms with the fact that the ordinary people, when given a voice, actually use it. I know it's come as I said in my 2-minute speech yesterday, democracy can be awfully difficult. And it can be, but when you give people a voice, and then you've got people like Dominic Grieve on my side who actually knows, it's amazing. He says that the people who voted Leave don't know what they were voting for, but he can also tell me what they didn't vote for. And it's that sort of dripping arrogance and the ability to ignore what people are saying is one of the reasons why I believe that the Leave campaign won in the end, because we've had decades of it where people have felt unloved and not listened to. And the pollsters, there were lots of polls around at the time, and I mean, Leave may have been ahead once briefly, but it didn't seem to me that that's where we were going. And when I saw the TV on the night of the results, 10 o'clock, no exit polls, but the last series of polls were all in favour of Remain. And of course the result was somewhat different. I was rather disheartened when they said the last polls were for Remain, pound up, shares up, Nigel Farage concedes defeat. And I thought, oh well, that's it then. And I was driving down to Manchester for the National Collation of the Count, and I was listening to Radio 4, and you could tell as the results were starting to come in that something clicked with the political pundits, that something wasn't quite right, and that the seats in the northeast, who always amaze me at the speed with which they get the results in, it's almost like an Olympics for them. They knew that something was happening. And then of course a lot of London results came in, Scotland came in, and Remain got back into the lead, and people I think were a bit more assured. But when I said to the guy on the computer in front of me in our war room, I said, it doesn't look as good now. And he said, all of London's in, all of Scotland's in, just watch. And of course the rest is history. And I do say and recommend to you, if you want to refresh your memories, go on YouTube and have a look at the BBC referendum result programme, which I did rather sadly the other day at 4:30 in the morning because I couldn't sleep, and I thought I might as well do something. So I watched it, and it did refresh my memory too as well. Boris Johnson, absolute asset for the campaign. I was in the Auction Mart when he came. It was in Gisborne, in Lancashire. It could only happen with Boris. He comes into the room and has a word with some of the directors, and they say, if you don't mind auctioning this cow. And I laughed and I said, have you ever auctioned a cow before, Boris? And he said, yes. How's Boris for you? Of course, I've never auctioned a cow. So it's the second time he was auctioning a cow. And he was an absolute personality. The cameras followed him everywhere, and he spoke in a language that, rather Trump-like, paints pictures. So, whilst that is very difficult to explain to people who are even interested in it, the way that he was able to do it, was done in very simple messages as well. Michael Gove, absolutely right. Dominic Cummings, behind the scenes so much. Not a user-friendly personality, Dominic, but he knows what he needs to do, and he had a very clear message. I was somewhat slightly bemused, although you were objective about it, but nonetheless irritated by the fact that the referendum question was done in a neutral way, which didn't favour the yes answer, which is fine.
There's no such thing as a neutral question.
No, but there were two separate questions, which meant that yes, if answering yes didn't give a benefit. It's a bit like if your name is Alan Aardvack, you know you're going to be at the top of the ballot paper, and I think in some countries they actually rotate so that nobody gets an advantage by your name being on the top of the ballot paper. One of those things. So that was done in neutral fashion. And secondly as well, the neutrality of the media is vitally important in the way that then people can make their own decisions. I mean, post the referendum result, as you may see, if you tune into anything these days, it's normally 3 Remainers with 1 Brexiteer. Unless it's question time, in which case it's 4 Remainers and 1 Brexiteer. I mean, yeah, you can complain to Tony Hall here about the usage of the words like cliff edge and all that sort of stuff. Water off a duck's back, they carry on doing it.
The single biggest number of complaints I got in the 11 years I ran the Andrew Marr show was, why do you go on and on putting Nigel Farage on the Marr show? So you can argue these things back and forth.
Yeah. No, he's a personality, and I can understand why people do tune in. I think he was outside the House of Commons yesterday, and a huge crowd around him. And then, I suppose the one thing that irritated us, and you mentioned Project Fear, so I should mention that very briefly. I do have to go at about 10 past 3 to go and do my regional BBC. And it's this, that for us, it was incredibly irritating, and I think you're right talking about David Cameron. Had he only done a Harold Wilson and been more neutral about it, then it may well have gone a lot better. But the Project Fear, as we perceived it, which even David Cameron started laughing about in the end and making jokes about frogs and, a plague of frogs and Armageddon and World War III and all that sort of stuff. I mean, roughly they were the only, a space attack or an alien attack, I think, was the only thing that they didn't predict if we voted to leave. Getting President Obama across and telling us that we'd be at the back of a queue if we ever voted to leave an organisation which the United States of America would never join. And that sort of stuff. Then Christine Lagarde and the IMF and Mark Carney. Mark Carney, I joy in every prediction that he ever makes because he always gets it wrong. Mark Carney is great at doing modelling, which tells you what is the absolute worst thing that could possibly happen by doing a certain action, which is like leaving the European Union without a trade deal. And if you did the same modelling yourself about what could possibly go wrong during a 24-hour day, you'd never get out of bed. If you think about it, because that's what he does. He models the worst case scenario, but nobody was ever modelling the best case scenario. And so we got incredibly irritated by Project Fear, where they predicted in a Treasury paper that even if we voted to leave, you didn't actually have to leave, you just voted to leave, that unemployment would go up by 800,000 and we would be in a recession. Well, George Osborne, that was behind all of that, he lost 1 job and gained 8 more jobs. I mean, the guy, I take my hat off to him, I'm incredibly envious of him, to be honest. But he lost his job as Chancellor of the Exchequer, but he's done incredibly well since. And indeed, employment has gone up 800,000 since the time that we voted to leave the European Union. I'm not saying there's not going to be a change now, because as you can see from the German figures, that there is a downcast in all of that. And so we are where we are. So we fast forwarded. We won the campaign. I did an interview with one Dominic Grieve on the BBC the night after the result. And as a colleague
of yours, a fellow conservative.
Yeah, an absolute colleague of mine. Colleague is a great word. Colleague is a word you use when you can't use the word friend. It's used in this place time and time again. Anyway, we did this interview, and at the end of it, because he's incredibly intelligent and bright, far brighter than I am. Because when I looked at the results, I thought people just wanted to leave the European Union, but Dominic is so bright, he could see it in 12 different ways, none of which meant leave. And of course, he's carried on ever since. And he spoke to somebody the other day, and he says, no, I think we can remain in the European Union. And that's what he's pitting to do, to actually overturn a democratic wishes of the people of this country, using any device that he possibly can. And of course, in the meantime, we had a general election, which he stood on and said that we would deliver the Brexit that people voted for. It's very, very difficult to go into a general election, by the way, a snap general election that you call yourself, having a 24-point lead, and it is a genius that can actually reduce that to 1%, which is what Theresa did. And wherein lies the problem now, which is we're in a minority government, supported by the DUP, which we have a group of people on our own backbenches that will do anything they possibly can to thwart the referendum result, which resulted in many ways, Theresa pivoting away from the Lancaster House speech that she gave, which was a far more clear Brexit than the one that she dreamt up over the past 6 months or so, which she tried to sell on the Chequers deal. She's lost several Leave ministers. She told me that Brexiteers would be in charge of the negotiation at every stage. That clearly hasn't happened. And we then managed to devise a treaty that upset the 10 MPs from Northern Ireland who we rely on to govern. Think about that for a second. Somebody forgot about them? They are the umbilical cord that the government needs to govern. And we cut it. Last night, we sewed it back together again.
Good. We're going to lose you in 5 minutes. I want to put in one quick question, and perhaps we can take a couple of questions for you from the audience, and then we've got a few more minutes as well. So, my one question, if I might, is you went through that no lobby last night with all the Labour folk and the SNP, and you had on one side of you Anna Seabury and Ken Clark and Dominic Grieve and Conservatives who want to either overturn the referendum result altogether and get us to remain in, or get something so watered down that it embodies most of the points of the EU. Part of your known team on that side, and on the other side you had diametrically opposite people, possibly I suspect like yourself, who are quite happy that we leave with no agreement, who think that the term crashing out is a nonsense term.
Yeah.
It's not crashing out, it is leaving as people voted 2 years ago. But within your party, which May is now going to deal with, you've got totally different reasons for saying no last night. So what is the best way of something happening, or are you saying, actually, if nothing happens and we leave with no deal at all, fine by me?
Well, I prefer a deal, I have to say. The sequencing of the negotiations was done all badly wrong. To say that you can't talk about trade before you've got this withdrawal agreement is bonkers. Because if you get an FTA with the European Union, and we buy £341 billion worth of their goods, they buy 95 billion less of our goods. So there's a huge advantage for us wanting to carry on buying 850,000 German cars every year, 20% of the Prosecco from Italy and all that sort of stuff. So there's a huge advantage to doing some form of FTA. Once that is established, then you know what the relationship between Ireland and Northern Ireland is going to be. But we weren't able to discuss any of that until after March the 29th, when then we have to try and sort out this insoluble problem of the Northern Ireland backstop, which treated Northern Ireland somewhat differently to the rest of us. And also, as I lined it yesterday, which doesn't give us the unilateral ability to leave the European Union. They could actually lock us into the backstop forever. Apparently taxation was a temporary measure. When that was introduced, we promised it wouldn't last long, and it did. It's still with us. It's a real problem. By the way, I've been an MP almost for 27 years. During that period of time, I have rebelled once.
And that was in the early days on an inconsequential issue. Absolutely inconsequential. And I told the cabinet minister I'd reply, and he laughed. He said, "No, Nigel, because it was only like 5 of us there."
It mattered so much last night.
It mattered so much to me, yes. I wouldn't sit down with Anna Soubry and expect to get a common dialogue as to why we were there.